And we are live. So last week, the S&P had its worst week since, April. NASDAQ was down 3.7% because we saw a rotation. Traders were getting out of tech stocks. And this morning, tech stocks are rebounding. Over the weekend, also big news. Yesterday, President Biden announced that he will drop out of the 2024 presidential race. And how does this affect the markets? Well, we'll take a look at this. Then we also have another trade for you. So lots to cover today. And with that said, welcome to Coffee with Markus and Mark. And today is Monday, July 22nd. And in this show, we are going to talk about what's happening in the markets and how we are trading it. And Mark, wow, look at last week. I mean, at first it seems that we started pretty well on Monday and Tuesday, but then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, huge drop.
Exactly. So rough week, rough second half of the week in particular, because we did make record highs on Tuesday, and things were looking pretty good. But after that, it was all downhill.
Yeah, I mean, at least for the S&P and the Nasdaq, not necessarily for the Dow. I mean, yeah, the Dow also a little bit lower, but the Dow had a phenomenal Monday and Tuesday. I don't even know, where do we stand for the week for the Dow? I mean, the Dow actually, look at this, for last week was actually up for the week.
Yeah, barely. Actually, I shouldn't say barely, because 0.7% for the Dow is a decent gain. You see that coming off of those highs after making records. But yeah, finishing positive. And small caps too. IWM up 1.74%. So some gains with that rotation that we saw.
Yeah. So rotation, I mean, last week traders flocked out of the Magnificent Seven. So Nvidia was down. If you take a look at last week, so here we have a daily chart of Nvidia, Microsoft. I mean, across the board. And then this morning, they're all going back into the Magnificent Seven, back into Nvidia, Microsoft, Tesla up 3%, Meta 2%, Google up 2%, Apple 2%. So rotation already over?
Well, I think this is where you have a few things going on. There was that rotation into small caps and some blue chips, and we saw that with such a different move in the S&P 500 and Nasdaq versus the rally and gains in the Dow and the Russell 2000. So that was clear and apparent. Now, we also had a situation where the Biden administration had made some comments about some challenges potentially with semiconductors and business with China, and so that also had an impact there. There was some news today or over the weekend that people familiar with the matter say that NVIDIA is preparing a version of its new Blackwell chips for the Chinese market. So that giving another reason for NVIDIA in particular to rally.
Yeah. All right. And then the big news over the weekend, President Biden drops out of the 2024 presidential election and endorses Kamala Harris as the nominee. Big news yesterday.
It was big, and it was interesting to see where we were going to start the evening, because we have U.S. futures markets opening up on the West Coast at 3:30 p.m. on Sunday. And so after that news, wondering just how things were going to shape up. Was it going to be a negative reaction or a positive reaction? And it seems like traders are, it's not really introducing a whole lot of uncertainty here. It's if anything, it becomes more certain.
Yeah, because over the last 2 weeks, I mean, we already heard calls for Biden to step down and make room for another candidate. And so what markets saw last week, and this is where we can go back to the VIX, the volatility index, is an increase in uncertainty. And we see
Yeah.
that the VIX, that has been the fear index trading around 12, between 12 and 13, suddenly spiked up to around 17. Now, this blip here down there was caused by Friday's outage. the crowd strike blue screen of death where okay, like what's
Gosh.
happening? So this was an overnight move, so ignore this. But yeah, we moved higher here to around 17, and it was the uncertainty. Okay, will Biden run against Trump, or will it be somebody else? And we saw uncertainty creeping up today, dropping 8% after now. Okay, Biden is out. There will be somebody else. It is not yet certain who it will be, but I mean, everything points at Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and this is where she's received Biden's endorsement. And I mean, this is where going into the week after the attempted assassination on Trump, the probability, the odds of him controlling the White House and potentially, the GOP just taking control, those odds went up. But with Kamala Harris, even if there are slightly better odds with her in the running versus Biden, the policies that she would bring to the table are already known, right? So it would be bigger news if there was a Democratic nominee that jumped ahead of everybody else. That the policies were unknown or would just be a huge shakeup to what's expected, and that's where we've talked about it with our traders. Yes, there can be some political uncertainties, but generally speaking, the markets care about earnings and the Fed and inflation and everything else going on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially today, if you look at the move and we to go to a 5 minute chart of the S&P, we see that we opened higher, and this opening higher, I think this was caused by, as you just explained, the certainty. However, what we are seeing right now, that is driven by Nvidia and gang. I mean, this is where we are back to into the Magnificent Seven. So we are trading at
Sure.
highs of the day. In the S&P up 1%, the Nasdaq up 1.4%, trading at session highs. Dow also trading at session highs. So overall, it looks like okay, another positive day, at least a positive start.
Yep, looks like it.
And I mean, as said, this week, so what do we have in store? First of all, on the economic calendar, um, not a whole lot going on. Nothing today, not much on Tuesday. I think the big ones are on Thursday and Friday. So let's start with Friday. First of all, we have the Core PCE price index. This is the Fed's favorite inflation gauge. And I mean, right now, traders are anticipating that there will be a cut in September. But I think that this will show us how certain traders will be about the cut or not.
Yeah, and this to me is the biggest because yeah, I mean, if there's a shock here, that could definitely move the markets. But traders want to know what's going on with inflation because they want to have a better feel for what the Fed might do. But then Thursday is also a potential mover.
Yeah, so we have the advanced GDP, the gross domestic product, basically saying how well are we doing in the economy. Previously, the economy grew by 1.4%. It is expected 1.9, and this is the first reading. We have a total of three readings for the GDP. We have the advanced, we have the preliminary, and then we have the final. So we will see, because that kind of tells us, is the economy still in good shape as everybody believes it to be, or are there first signs of cracking?
Sure. Yeah, we'll see. So Thursday, Friday, a little bit more important when it comes to the economic calendar. Other than that, it's earnings, earnings, earnings.
It is all about earnings. And this week, we have the first two of the Magnificent Seven reporting. We have Google, Alphabet reporting tomorrow after the bell, and Tesla. So the first two of the Magnificent Seven. And then we also have a few of the Dow stocks. We have Coca Cola, Danaher. We have IBM. Today, we had Verizon reporting. We can take a look at this. But as you can see, earnings season is picking up this week. 135 stocks reporting earnings.
Yeah, busy week for earnings, and then it gets even busier next week.
Yeah. So if you look at this, so this week we have 135 stocks. Next week, 167 stocks. So we see that this week and next week, this is really the biggie. So we were leading up to it, and then it will start fizzling out. But yeah, this week and next week are the big ones for earnings. All right. Well, let's take a look at Verizon. Verizon reported earnings, and let's go to a daily chart. Verizon this morning down 6%, which is a lot for a good old Verizon here.
Yeah, pretty big drop here considering that Verizon actually reported better than expected earnings. They reported better than expected earnings. Revenue was down a little bit, and then this is where there was a government, like a COVID era government program that has come to an end June 1st that is impacting some of that revenue. And if you look at the heat map, Marcus, you see that it also carried the drop carried over into some of the other companies in that sector. We see that T-Mobile, TMUS, Comcast, all down today. Charter Communications, most likely because of that change.
Yeah. All right. So that's what's overall going in the in the markets. Let's actually take a look at our positions, and we start with our WTF positions here. Let me just bring it up, and so WTF, someone over. Yes, no, maybe. I know. Let me maybe refresh my screen here really quick, and we have quite a few positions going on at WTF, and then there was a new one today. So let's take a look at our open positions. And first up, Applied Materials today having a great day, up 4%. We're getting really close to our entry point again. So we entered at 222.15, and right now trading just shy, almost at 220.
Yeah, get bouncing back after being down last 2 days. So getting back up there, not looking too bad.
And then we also have AMD. AMD today, yeah, I mean, was already up a little bit more, but what we can see, it's bouncing nicely off the 200-day moving average. Still trading around $7 below our entry price, but up, 1.75% today. I'll take
Yeah,
that. I'd
sure.
hope that it would have a little bit more follow through with NVIDIA, but we'll see what happens here for the remainder of the day.
Yep. Then AVGO. This one looking good at the open and rallying a little bit. Now pulling back right around the entry that we had.
Yeah, so this morning we were higher. We were as high as 163 almost. So nicely up from our entry at 158.89. Pulling back a little bit. So I don't know. This AVGO Broadcom, what do we have? Semiconductors. I mean, we should be doing good in the semiconductors. Let's see if everybody just wants NVIDIA or if it gets a little bit more widely spread here in the semiconductors. So, but this one is looking good. And then we have our little buddy Schwab having a great day today, up 3%, coming back towards our entry signal. So we'll see what happens with this one.
Yeah, and I picked up some shares at a lower price there too after that drop on the first day we got in. So this one's working out pretty good.
Yeah. Did you ever get into Amazon?
I did not. I actually was considering this Friday as an OBE entry, open below entry, and I was seeing if we could pull back a little bit more, maybe get down to 4%, and that wasn't the case. It would have been a nice pickup at the open on Friday, though.
Yeah. Well, and then today, a new signal, MU. So let's talk about this one. What do you think?
Yeah, this was one that I actually I traded, and I was filled right at 115.36 where MU opened up and the signal price there that we see in the WTF analyzer. So hanging out right now, down a tiny bit, but not just kind of flat for the day.
Yeah. I skipped this one, so we'll see how this turns out. I'm happy with the positions that I'm in, which are these AMAT, AMD, AVGO, and Schwab. Now, hopping over to the wheel, we do definitely have some action here. So CSIQ, CSIQ, a little bit all over the place. I mean, this morning we were up, almost 3-4%. We're still up 2% for the day. So we'll see. I think here's what I saw. Who is it who got in trouble last week? Not SunPower. Which one is the one that is almost going out of business? Is it SPWR? Who had a really bad week? Yeah, I think it's
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's SunPower. So one of the solar companies really having a bad week, as you can see last week, dropping here significantly. I mean, this is an 80% drop. And right now, it seems that they might go out of business. And I do believe this has dragged down CSIQ a little bit here.
Yeah. Not fun for any SunPower holders.
Yeah. But if you look at this, I mean, SunPower, this is their annual statement, and let's compare this to CSIQ. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, CSIQ is in a completely different position here, and I'm not worried about CSIQ going out of business anytime soon. I mean, here we are talking about an annual revenue of what? Just shy of $8 billion, while what was it, SunPower? How do you spell this again? There we go. SPWR. I mean, just around 1.5 billion and operating at a loss over the past, I believe, few quarters here. So different
Yeah.
story for CSIQ. If you also look at the quarterly statements here.
Yep.
So we'll see. Nothing for us to do right now. And then HAL, Halliburton, super interesting. So we got a sign at 34.50. I sold calls at 34.50 and I sold more calls at 36.50. You sold calls at 36. Now on Friday, these calls expired worthless, so that's great. We just keep all of the premium. Now on Friday, we closed. Where did we close on Friday? At 34.40. So this means that we are trading below our call strike, so we should not have got called away. However, there was a little bit of a spike in after-hour trading, and I did get called away on half of my position right now. You, on the other hand, did not.
Interesting. And this is where even that move higher on Friday after the bell, it wasn't this significant move, and it spent a lot of time below 34.50, but it doesn't happen too often. However, there is a 90-minute window after the close on Friday where a call buyer could technically choose to exercise his or her right to purchase shares at that strike. And 97% of the time, that's not an accurate quote, but a high percentage of the time it's going to be based totally on Friday's close. This time it wasn't, and even in our mastermind group, we had quite a few people with their shares called away at the 34.50. I did not have any of those shares called away. Markus, you did, and it made for an interesting morning.
It does. And I mean, I'll see what happens here because I'm willing to sell more puts to get back into the position. Right now, I could sell the 33.50, considering selling the 34.50. And then, of course, I'm still interested in selling calls at 36.50 for the other half of my position. Now, have you been looking at selling calls at 36 this morning?
I did not look at 36, but I did sell at 34.50. I was able to get 73% annualized, getting 35 cents on my 34.50 call. So
Nice.
I haven't done anything at 36, but 34.50, I have those calls sold again.
All right, so HL will be an interesting one. And then we have KSS, Colts. I saw the 2150 put, and as you can see, on Friday, we closed below 2150. So I did get a sign. Right now, I'm trying to sell calls at 2150. Today, Colts down another 2.4%. I don't know based on what. Is it because Macy's is down or what else is happening here? No, Macy's just in there. So I haven't seen any news why Kohl's would be down today. But we'll definitely see. So that will be an interesting one. Haven't been able to sell calls just yet.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Yeah. And then UPS slightly down today after having a phenomenal run. So it seems that right now UPS trying to hang out in this range again between 143 to maybe 150, and we want to see that we are breaking out of this range so that we go back into call selling territory, CST. So going right in there.
Nice. I like that.
All right.
CST.
So these are the positions that we are in. And before we take a look at where the markets are, if you're making new all-time highs or new highs for the day again, let's do our friendly competition and see who has the better joke this morning. What do you got for us?
Markus,
Yes.
do you know how much it costs to swim with dolphins?
No.
I don't know either, but to swim with sharks, it will cost you an arm and a leg.
All right. Well, I just paid $200 for a belt. It was a huge waste.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Maybe. All right.
All right.
Let's actually go over here to the iPad, handy dandy iPad, and we see that right now the S&P kind of diddling along at these higher levels, still up 0.2%, 0.7%, but up from earlier 1%. So on a daily chart, we're not yet clawing back, and I wanted to bring up the 50-day moving average. Okay, we're only halfway towards the 50-day moving average. So what do you expect for the remainder of the week? Will we move more towards the all-time highs again, or will we see another pullback towards maybe around the 5,500 level, which should be closer to the 50-day moving average?
You know, I think we're just gonna drift higher. So I think we had that pullback, and I don't think there's going to be any like shocking news, and we'll probably just drift higher. What do you think, Markus?
You know what? I think that we'll probably diddle along, and I wouldn't be too surprised if over the next 2 weeks we are touching the 50-day moving average, because it's about time. I mean, we haven't touched it in a while. Last time was in the beginning of June. So it's not that we are completely running away from it. I mean, we talked about it last week. We completely ran away from it with the largest standard deviation away from the 50-day moving average in the Russell 2000. But you see, if you're going to the S&P or the Nasdaq, we see that often, right, it gets touched. Well, I think we will. I think we'll pull back towards 5,500 and give it a quick nudge.
I like that, but you changed your answer to fit your changed question, Markus. You said this week. I answered based on this week, and then you turned it into next week as well.
Well, sneaky.
Okay, well, that's the answer I wanted.
Hey, well, that said, if you enjoyed today's show, do us a favor and give us a like. We really appreciate all of the likes. If you feel that this was information worth sharing, there's a share button right underneath. Please feel free to share it with whomever you want, wherever you want. We would appreciate all of the shares. And if this is your first time here, welcome. Hit the subscribe button, because we'll be back here tomorrow morning to let you know what else is happening in the markets here. If the rotation continues or if it is over right now, we will see. There's never a dull moment. Until then, have a great rest of your day.
Sneaky. Happy trading, everybody.